All right, let's talk about something we all do but almost never really think about: sleep. I mean, for a huge chunk of our lives, right? We basically enter this state that, when you really look at it, is a biological absurdity. We just lie down, lose consciousness, and become completely vulnerable. It's honestly one of the biggest mysteries in all of biology.
I mean, just think about it from an evolutionary standpoint for a second. Why on earth would any creature evolve a state that makes it easy prey, that literally takes it out of the game for hours, every single day? There has to be a profound, absolutely non-negotiable benefit, right? Otherwise, it just makes no sense. And for most of human history, for thousands of years, the best answer we had was, well, pretty simple. It's just rest. Sleep was just seen as the absence of being awake, a time when the body and the brain just shut off. A totally passive state of doing nothing, just to recover from the day. But that simple answer, turns out it couldn't be more wrong. So welcome to the active revolution in sleep science. Thanks to modern neuroscience, we've had a complete turnaround in how we see it. We now know that when you fall asleep, your brain isn't clocking out for the night. Oh no, it's clocking in for its most important shift. And the scale of this shift in thinking is just enormous. I mean, we've gone from seeing sleep as a void, this black hole of inactivity, to understanding it as a highly structured, incredibly active, and absolutely critical process. It's not rest, it's work. And this timeline really shows you just how recent this whole revolution is. I mean, for over 2,000 years, our understanding basically went nowhere. It just sat there. Then, boom, 1953, REM sleep is discovered, and we realize the brain is super active at night. But the real bombshell? That came in 2013, revealing one of sleep's most vital, mind-blowing jobs. So what's one of these big jobs? Well, the first one is basically intensive physical maintenance. The best way to think about it, it's your brain's nightly housekeeping service. And the crew doing all that housekeeping is called the glymphatic system. Now, for years, scientists were kind of stumped. They knew the brain is the most metabolically active organ in the body. It produces a ton of toxic waste just by, thinking and living. But how did it clear all that junk out? This system is the answer. It's basically a dedicated plumbing and sanitation system just for the brain. Okay, so how does it work? This is where it gets absolutely wild. To even start the cleaning cycle, your brain has to physically change its own architecture. While you're asleep, the space between your brain cells actually expands by a staggering 60%. 60! That's incredible. So that 60% expansion, it basically opens up the floodgates, kicking off this whole wash cycle. First, clean cerebral spinal fluid gets pumped in. Then, because the channels are now wide open, it washes right through the brain tissue, collecting all the metabolic gunk that built up during the day. We're talking about toxic proteins linked to really serious neurodegenerative diseases. And finally, all that waste-filled fluid gets flushed out. It is literally a power wash for your brain. And here's the really crucial point. You can't do this while you're awake, checking your email or watching TV. This entire deep cleaning system is over 90% suppressed during the day. It's almost completely shut down. You have to be asleep for it to work. It's not optional. It's a non-negotiable biological requirement. Okay, but cleaning out the physical trash is only half the story. While the brain's janitorial staff is hard at work, there's another team organizing the office. Because sleep is the master archivist for your memories. And what it does is pretty amazing. It carries out two perfectly complementary missions. First, signal enhancement. It goes through your day, identifies the important new memories, and strengthens them, kind of like hitting save and moving them to a long-term hard drive. But just as important is the second mission, noise reduction. It weakens and prunes the less important trivial connections. Think of it as clearing your cache. This is so critical because it stops your brain from getting totally overloaded and makes room for you to learn new things tomorrow. And this whole process isn't random at all. It's like a beautifully choreographed symphony. During deep sleep, different parts of your brain start to synchronize their electrical rhythms, their brainwaves. And these waves act like a sophisticated file management system, all working together in perfect harmony to sort, file, and store your memories. This, by the way, is exactly why pulling an all-nighter to cram for an exam is such a terrible idea. Sure, you can stuff a bunch of information into your brain's short-term memory, like a temporary folder, but by skipping sleep, you're skipping the most essential step,
The part where those fragile, temporary files get saved and filed away into long-term storage. Without sleep, they just disappear. All right, so we've established that sleep cleans our brain and files away our memories. So what happens if we decide to skip it?
So what happens when that essential night shift just doesn't show up for work? What's the real price we pay when we try to burn the candle at both ends? Well, the consequences, as it turns out, are both immediate and pretty devastating.
Let's start with the immediate fallout. Get this. After just 24 hours of being awake, your cognitive impairment is equivalent to having a blood alcohol content of 0.10%. Let that sink in. That is above the legal driving limit in most places. Your attention, your judgment, your reaction time, it all just falls off a cliff.
But as bad as that is, the long-term price is even steeper. Chronic, long-term sleep deprivation is linked to pretty much every major modern illness you can think of. We're talking heart disease, hypertension, obesity, type 2 diabetes. It messes with your immune system, your cardiovascular system, your metabolic health. It dramatically increases your risk for a whole host of awful diseases.
And let's just bring this all full circle, because the link to Alzheimer's disease is terrifyingly direct. Remember that glymphatic deep cleaning system we talked about earlier? Well, one of the main toxic proteins it flushes out every night is called amyloid beta. That's the exact protein that builds up to form those destructive plaques in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. So the logic is brutal and simple. No sleep means no deep clean. And year after year, that toxic waste just builds up and up and up. So it all comes down to this one question. Is sleep the time when we do nothing? Or is it actually the most important, most productive work you'll do all day? The next time you think about sacrificing an hour of sleep, just remember what's really happening inside your head. It's not downtime, it's not a luxury, it is a critical, life-sustaining biological process. It is your brain's secret night shift, and it is absolutely essential.